Your recommender already knows what to suggest. What it can do is tell a user why in plain language. That's the gap a recommendation explainer fills. In this video, we'll build one with Azure OpenAI in Python. You'll learn the right mental model, how to ground the model so it doesn't invent reasons, the 3 settings that actually matter, and the production gotchas around cost, latency, and prompt injection. This is not a recommender from scratch. It's a thin, accurate explanation layer on top of one you already have. The single most important rule: the language model does not pick the items. Your existing system, whether it's collaborative filtering, a gradient-boosted ranker, or vector search, decides what to recommend and produces the ranking signals. Azure OpenAI only turns those signals into a human-readable justification. If you let the model both choose and explain, it will confidently rationalize items it never actually scored, and you lose the auditability that makes explanations trustworthy. So keep 2 boxes. The ranker emits item IDs plus the features that drove the score, and the explainer consumes exactly those features. The explanation must be derivable from the inputs, nothing more. Here's the data flow. A client request hits your API, which calls the ranker to get the top items and their driving features. Those structured signals go into a prompt sent to an Azure OpenAI chat deployment, which returns the explanations. To control cost, put a cache in front. Keying on user segment plus item plus the signal bundle lets you reuse explanations instead of paying per request. Pull your endpoint and key from Key Vault, never from code. The explainer call is the only place the large language model touches your stack, which keeps the surface you have to secure and monitor small. The grounding happens in the prompt. You pass the model a structured payload of the recommended items and their signals, and you force structured output so the result is parsable and bounded. Use the latest API version with structured outputs or a JSON schema response format. Notice the system prompt instruction: explain only using the provided signals, and if a signal is missing, say so rather than guessing. That one sentence is your strongest defense against fabricated reasons. The deployment name here is your Azure model deployment, not the base model name. Keep that distinction straight or every call fails. 3 knobs do most of the work. First, temperature. Keep it low, around 0.2, because you want consistent, faithful explanations, not creative prose. Second, max tokens. Explanations are short, so cap output tight, maybe a few hundred tokens, to control both cost and latency. Third, the response format. Structured outputs or JSON mode so you get a predictable object per item instead of free text you have to scrape. Everything else, like top P or frequency penalty, you can usually leave at defaults. API versions and the exact structured output support change often, so check the current Azure OpenAI docs before you pin a version. Per request model calls add up fast. A single explanation might be a few cents and a few hundred milliseconds, but multiply that by every page view and it dominates your bill and your tail latency. 3 tactics: cache aggressively, since explanations for the same user segment and item rarely change minute to minute. Batch multiple items into one call instead of one call per item. And make the call asynchronous so it never blocks the recommendation itself. Render items immediately, then fill in explanations when they return. Treat the explanation as an enhancement, not a hard dependency on the critical path. 3 things will hurt you in production. 1. Hallucinated reasons. Even grounded models embellish, so validate that cited signals actually exist in your payload and reject explanations that mention items you didn't send. 2. Prompt injection. Item titles and descriptions are untrusted user content, so never let them override your system instructions. Keep them clearly fenced as data and don't execute anything they say. 3. Quota. Azure OpenAI throttles on tokens per minute and requests per minute per deployment. Under load, you'll get 429s. So implement retry with backoff and consider provision throughput if your volume is steady. Watch your token usage as a first-class metric. To recap, let your ranker pick the items and emit the signals, and let Azure OpenAI do nothing but turn those signals into faithful, structured explanations. Keep temperature low, cap your tokens, force JSON output, and cache and batch to control cost and latency. Guard against hallucination, prompt injection, and rate limits. Your one concrete next step. Take an existing recommendation endpoint and wrap a single explainer call around its output, with the system prompt that says use only these signals. Ship it behind a cache and measure token cost per request. And since API versions and pricing shift, check the current Azure docs before you go live. If this helped, do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. See you in the next video.